What if everything you've been taught about getting rich is wrong? What if the path you've been told to follow, study hard, get a secure job, save faithfully, invest patiently, and wait until retirement, isn't the road to freedom at all, but a road that quietly steals the best years of your life? For a moment, imagine waking up at 35 with complete control over your time. No alarm clock forcing you out of bed. No boss deciding your schedule. No waiting for weekends to feel alive. Your home is truly yours. Your income continues to grow whether you're working, traveling, learning, or spending time with the people you love. For most people, that sounds impossible. DeMarco argues that it isn't impossible. It's simply a different road, one that very few people ever discover. In The Millionaire Fastlane, DeMarco dismantles the financial blueprint that society celebrates and replaces it with a radically different philosophy. He explains why trading time for money can never create true freedom, why most traditional wealth advice is painfully slow, and why extraordinary wealth is built by creating value, building systems, and thinking like an entrepreneur instead of an employee. This isn't a promise of overnight riches. There are no secret formulas, lottery tickets, or magical shortcuts here. The fast lane demands creativity, discipline, persistence, and relentless execution. But it also offers something the conventional path rarely can: the possibility of achieving financial freedom while you're still young enough to enjoy it. As we journey through this book, you'll discover the 3 financial roads that determine almost everyone's future. The hidden traps keeping millions trapped in the get-rich-slow mindset. The principles behind businesses that generate wealth at scale. And the powerful framework DeMarco calls cents, a blueprint for building a business that creates lasting freedom instead of another job. More importantly, you'll begin to question assumptions you've probably accepted your entire life. You'll stop seeing money as something earned 1 hour at a time and start seeing it as the result of solving meaningful problems for large numbers of people. By the end of this journey, you won't just think differently about money. You'll think differently about time, opportunity, work, risk, and the life you're capable of creating. The question is no longer whether becoming wealthy is possible. The question is whether you're willing to leave the crowded road behind and take the one that leads to freedom. Let's begin. Part 1. Wealth in a wheelchair, get rich slow is get rich old. Chapter 1. The Great Deception. There is a lie being told to you every single day. It is told with good intentions, repeated by parents, teachers, financial advisors, and popular culture. The lie sounds like wisdom. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like safety. The lie is this: go to school, get a good degree, land a stable job, work hard for 40 years, save a little every month, invest in a mutual fund, live frugally, and then, when you are 65 and your knees hurt and your hair has gone grey and your best years are behind you, you will finally be free. DeMarco calls this the Great Deception. Not because the people who taught it to you are evil. They are not. They genuinely believed it. But believing a flawed map does not get you to the right destination. It just means you drive confidently in the wrong direction for 4 decades. Think about what this plan actually requires. It requires you to surrender the healthiest, most energetic, most creative years of your life to a corporation that does not love you. It requires you to delay every dream, every adventure, every passion for a future version of yourself who may be too tired, too sick, or simply too old to enjoy any of it. And the cruelest part of the deception is the assumption built into it. The assumption that everything will go perfectly according to plan, that you will not lose your job, that inflation will stay low, that the stock market will cooperate, that you will stay healthy, that the world will not change. But the world does change. Companies downsize, markets crash, governments shift policies, And suddenly, that 40-year plan built on a set of perfect assumptions falls apart in a moment you never saw coming. DeMarco points out that the financial advice most people receive is rooted in a system designed to keep them working, not to make them wealthy. The advice benefits the institutions more than the individuals following it. Here is what makes this chapter so electrifying from the very beginning. DeMarco does not just criticize, he opens a door. He says there is another way. Not a get-rich-quick scheme, not a lottery ticket, not a secret loophole, but a genuine, tested, real-world path that changes the relationship between your time and your money entirely. And the first step on that path is recognizing that the map you have been given, the one called Get Rich Slow, leads somewhere you do not actually want to go. You want to be wealthy. And wealthy does not mean having money when you are old. Wealthy means having freedom while you are alive enough to feel it. That is what this book is about. That is what the fast lane is about. And it all begins with seeing the deception for what it truly is. This chapter connects directly to everything that follows. Because before you can choose a new road, you have to realize you are on the wrong one. The great deception is the veil that keeps millions of people locked in financial mediocrity, working decades for a dream that keeps moving further away with every year. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And once you cannot unsee it, you are ready to learn what DeMarco discovered for himself, the hard way, and spent years refining into a system anyone can follow. Chapter 2. How I Screwed Get Rich Slow. MJ DeMarco did not begin his life with advantages. He was not born into a wealthy family. He had no powerful connections. He had no mentor handing him the keys to a business empire. What he had was a moment, a single, electric moment when he was a teenager standing in a parking lot, staring at a Lamborghini Countach owned by a young man who looked no older than 30. DeMarco walked up to the man and asked him a question that would change the entire course of his life. He asked simply, "How can you afford that car?" The young man answered that he was an inventor. And in that brief exchange, a seed was planted in DeMarco's mind. Getting rich young was not just possible, it was real. It was standing right in front of him, gleaming and yellow in the afternoon sun. That moment became the origin of the fast lane philosophy. But the journey from that parking lot to actual wealth was not a straight line. It was messy, painful, and humbling. After graduating from college with 2 business degrees, DeMarco found himself living with his mother, broke, and trying one business idea after another. He joined multi-level marketing companies that went nowhere. He worked miserable jobs, including delivering pizzas and driving a limousine. He watched his peers move forward in their careers while he seemed to stumble backward. His girlfriend left. His bank account stayed empty. Society kept whispering to him, "Get a real job. Stop dreaming. Grow up." But DeMarco refused to accept the conventional script. He relocated to Phoenix with only $900, a borrowed laptop, and a stubborn belief that there was a better way. He converted a small apartment into an office. During the day, he worked. At night, he read, studying internet programming, finance books, and autobiographies of self-made wealthy people. Then came the idea. While working as a limousine driver, he noticed that customers often asked him to recommend limousine companies in other cities. He realized that thousands of people across the world must be asking the same question with nowhere good to turn. So he built a website to solve that exact problem. A directory that connected limousine companies with customers who needed them. He taught himself search engine optimization, copywriting, and graphic design. He sent cold emails. He made phone calls. He mailed letters. Slowly, the site grew. Revenue trickled in, then grew to hundreds of dollars a month, then thousands. Eventually, the business became so valuable that he sold it for over $1 million. He later bought it back for a fraction of that price after the dot-com crash, rebuilt it, streamlined it, and sold it again for several million more. He retired at 33 years old. The young man who once drove limousines for other people was now buying Lamborghinis of his own. What makes this story so powerful is not just the outcome, it is the process. DeMarco did not stumble into wealth. He thought differently about wealth. He spotted a need. He built a system to meet that need. He created something that worked while he slept, while he ate, while he lived. He did not trade hours for dollars. He built a machine that generated value at scale. That is the essence of the fast lane. And this chapter makes it personal, human, and undeniable. Part 2. Wealth is not a road, but a road trip. Chapter 3. The road trip to wealth. DeMarco opens this chapter with a metaphor that reframes everything. He says wealth is not a destination you simply drive to. It is a road trip. And like any great road trip, it requires 4 essential elements: a roadmap, a vehicle, the roads you travel, and the speed at which you move. Most people focus only on the destination. They daydream about having millions without ever thinking about the process that produces them. They want the arrival without the journey. But that is like wanting to be in Paris without ever boarding a plane. The destination is meaningless without understanding how to get there. The roadmap is your financial philosophy, your core beliefs about money, debt, time, education, and opportunity. Your roadmap determines the direction you move in. If your roadmap is flawed, everything else you do, no matter how hard you work, will take you somewhere you do not want to go. The vehicle is you, not your job, not your diploma, not your social connections. You are the vehicle. Your mindset, your habits, your decisions, your willingness to act and adapt. The vehicle is the thing that does the moving, and most people neglect it entirely. They spend more time servicing their car than developing themselves. The roads are the actual financial pathways you choose. A job is a road. Investing in stocks is a road. Building a business is a road. Each road has its own speed limit, its own rules, and its own destination. Choosing the wrong road means no matter how fast you try to go, you will be constrained by a system designed to keep you slow. Speed is how quickly you move from idea to execution, from vision to value, from plan to profit. Speed is the difference between building wealth in 5 years and spending 40 years hoping it eventually arrives. This chapter is the architectural blueprint of the entire book. Everything DeMarco teaches in the chapters that follow fits inside this 4-part framework. Your roadmap, your vehicle, your roads, your speed. Once you understand that wealth is a process with specific components, you stop looking for a lucky break and start building a system. And that shift in thinking, from hoping to building, from waiting to creating, is where the real journey begins. Chapter 4. The Roadmaps to Wealth. Every person alive is following one of 3 financial roadmaps. Most people follow one without ever consciously choosing it. The roadmap they follow was handed to them by their environment, their upbringing, their culture, and the financial advice that surrounded them growing up. DeMarco names these 3 roadmaps clearly: the sidewalk, the slow lane, and the fast lane. Each roadmap has its own set of beliefs about money. Each has its own wealth equation. Each produces a predictable outcome, either poverty, mediocrity, or extraordinary freedom. Understanding which roadmap you are on is the single most important thing you can do right now. Because you cannot change direction if you do not know you are going the wrong way. The sidewalk is the roadmap of those who live purely for today. Sidewalkers spend everything they earn, and often spend more than they earn, using credit to fuel a lifestyle that looks rich from the outside but is financially hollow. Their wealth equation is simply income combined with debt. They believe money is there to be enjoyed right now, and tomorrow is someone else's problem. Sidewalkers are not necessarily lazy or stupid. Some of them earn very high incomes, but they have zero financial discipline and zero long-term vision. When the paycheck stops, the lifestyle collapses. Sidewalkers are always one emergency away from disaster. The slow lane is the roadmap of most responsible, hardworking, educated people. It is the plan society endorses most aggressively. Go to school, get a good job, live below your means, save 15% of your income. Invest in a diversified portfolio. Wait 40 years. This plan feels safe, sensible, and mature. But DeMarco argues it is still deeply flawed. The slow lane trades time for money at every single step. And time, unlike money, cannot be earned back. Every hour sold to an employer is gone forever. The slow lane assumes the future will cooperate, that markets will rise, that health will hold, that jobs will be secure. It assumes 40 years of sacrifice will be rewarded at the finish line. Sometimes it works, but even when it works, the cost is the best years of your life. The fast lane is something else entirely. It is not about avoiding work. DeMarco himself worked 16-hour days at points in his journey. The fast lane is about building systems that create value at scale, systems that generate income independent of your personal time. It is about becoming the producer rather than the consumer, the owner rather than the employee, the creator rather than the spectator. This chapter lays the ideological foundation for the rest of the book. Once you understand these three paths and can clearly see which one you are currently on, you gain something priceless, the freedom of a conscious choice. You stop sleepwalking down a road someone else picked for you, and you start deliberately choosing where you want to go. Part 3. Poorness, the Sidewalk Roadmap. Chapter 5. The Road Most Traveled, the Sidewalk. The sidewalk is the most traveled financial road in the world, and it is paved with what feels like freedom but is actually financial self-destruction in slow motion. DeMarco describes the sidewalker not as someone who is uneducated or unintelligent, but as someone operating under a deeply broken belief system about money and time. The sidewalker lives for right now. The present is the only moment that matters. If there is money available, it gets spent. If credit is available, it gets borrowed. The mindset is simple. Enjoy life while you can. The future is uncertain, so why sacrifice the present for it? This sounds almost philosophical. In reality, it is financial suicide. DeMarco introduces the concept of lifestyle servitude. This is the trap that forms when your spending expands to match or exceed your income. Every raise you get is immediately absorbed by a bigger apartment, a nicer car, more expensive vacations, better clothes. You work more to spend more, and the cycle locks you in place. The income goes up, but the freedom never comes, because the lifestyle keeps demanding more and you keep serving it. The dangerous version of the sidewalker is not the broke person living paycheck to paycheck. That person at least feels the pressure of their situation. The dangerous sidewalker is the high earner, the person making a great income who drives luxury cars, lives in an expensive home and wears designer clothing but has zero savings, massive debt, and zero financial runway. If the income stops for even 3 months, everything collapses. They look wealthy, they feel wealthy, but they are one bad month from ruin. DeMarco also addresses the illusion of wealth, the idea that looking rich and being rich are two entirely different things. Society has confused the two. People buy expensive things not because they can truly afford them, but because they want to signal success to others. The car, the watch, the neighborhood, these are costumes, not evidence of genuine financial strength. The sidewalk chapter is important because many people reading this book are on the sidewalk and do not realize it. The recognition is uncomfortable, but discomfort is the beginning of change. Once you see the sidewalk clearly, Once you feel the weight of what lifestyle servitude truly costs, you are ready to take a different road. Chapter 6. Has your wealth been toxified? This chapter asks a deeply personal and powerful question. Has your wealth been toxified? DeMarco introduces this concept to describe a set of toxic beliefs that have infected the way most people think about money. These beliefs were absorbed through years of cultural conditioning, parental advice, media messages, and educational systems that taught financial obedience rather than financial intelligence. Toxified wealth thinking shows up in patterns like believing a good job is the safest financial path, or that debt is always evil, or that investing in a retirement account is the best anyone can do. These beliefs are not inherently false, but when they are accepted without examination, they become mental cages that limit your possibilities. DeMarco argues that the first step to building real wealth is to question every belief you currently hold about money. Where did that belief come from? Who taught it to you? Did it come from someone who is actually wealthy or from someone who simply repeated what they were told? Most financial beliefs people carry are second-hand, inherited from people who were themselves following a flawed script. The toxification process begins early. Children watch parents struggle financially and absorb the belief that money is scarce, that wealth requires sacrifice, that rich people are lucky or corrupt. These ideas settle deep in the subconscious and shape every financial decision made in adulthood. To escape them requires not just new information, but a complete mental detox. You have to be willing to unlearn what you thought was true. Chapter 7. Misuse. Money and money will misuse you. Money is not neutral. The way you treat money determines how money treats you. This is the core message of Chapter 7. DeMarco explains that money, when misused consistently, becomes a master rather than a servant. The person who spends impulsively, who borrows casually, who saves nothing, who invests without understanding what they are investing in, becomes enslaved by money rather than empowered by it. This chapter digs into the psychology of spending and the relationship between short-term gratification and long-term financial outcomes. Every rupee, every pound, every peso, every dollar spent thoughtlessly is a tiny act of financial self-harm. And these tiny acts accumulate over years into a prison built one purchase at a time. DeMarco introduces the idea that money is a reflection of value. The amount of money flowing into your life is directly related to the amount of value you are creating for others. People who misuse money are usually people who are focused on consuming value rather than creating it. They buy things. They borrow to buy more things. They measure their worth by what they own rather than by what they produce. Reversing this equation from consumer to creator is one of the fundamental mental shifts required to move toward the fast lane. Chapter 8. Lucky bastards play the game. This is one of the most energizing chapters in the entire book. DeMarco takes on the most common excuse people use for their financial failures: luck. The story goes that wealthy people are just lucky, that they were born into the right family, knew the right people, or happened to be in the right place at the right time. This narrative is deeply comforting to those who are not wealthy because it removes personal responsibility entirely. If success is luck, then failure is not your fault either. DeMarco demolishes this thinking with a simple insight. Luck is not random. Luck is the product of action. The more you put yourself into motion, the more you learn, the more you create, the more you try, the more frequently lucky events tend to occur in your life. Lucky people are not passive recipients of fortune. They are active participants in a game where showing up and playing consistently increases the probability of extraordinary outcomes. He introduces the idea of luck as a manufactured event, something you create through volume, variety, and velocity of action. The person who starts 10 businesses and fails at 9 of them is not unlucky. They are building the exact skills, knowledge, and resilience that make the 10th attempt a breakthrough. Compare that to the person who has a great idea but never acts on it, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect certainty. That person never gets lucky because they never play. Chapter 9. Wealth demands accountability. Here, DeMarco turns inward and delivers one of the most important truths in personal finance. You are the author of your financial life, not the government, not your employer, not the economy, not your childhood. You. The choices you make, the beliefs you hold, the actions you take or avoid taking, these are the architects of your current reality. And accepting this fully, not partially, not with qualifications, but completely, is the beginning of real change. DeMarco calls this the law of victims. Victims are people who externalize every negative outcome. The economy did this. My boss held me back. I never had the opportunities others had. The country is against people like me. Victims are not always wrong in their complaints. The world is genuinely unfair in many ways. But victimhood, regardless of how justified it feels, is financially paralyzing. Because the moment you believe your circumstances are controlled by external forces, you stop trying to change them. Accountability is the antidote. Radical, uncomfortable, honest accountability. Looking at your financial situation and saying, I made decisions that led here, and I can make different decisions that lead somewhere else. This is not self-blame, it is self-empowerment. The person who owns their story can also rewrite it. The victim cannot. Part 4. Mediocrity, the slow lane roadmap. Chapter 10. The lie you have been sold, the slow lane. This is the chapter that cuts deepest for most readers. The slow lane is not the path of the reckless or the broke. It is the path of the responsible, the disciplined, the educated. It is the financial plan most celebrated by society. And DeMarco says, respectfully but clearly, that it is built on a fundamental flaw. The flaw is this. The slow lane wealth equation anchors your income to time. Wealth equals job income combined with market returns multiplied by decades. Every variable in that equation is either capped or uncertain. Your income is capped by the number of hours you can work and the rate your employer agrees to pay. Your market returns are capped by global economic conditions you cannot control. And the time required is your entire life. 40 years of compounding requires 40 years of living. You do not get those years back. DeMarco is not saying discipline and saving are worthless. He is saying that anchoring your entire wealth strategy to time traded for money is a trap, because your most finite resource is time. When you sell your time to grow wealthy slowly, you are paying for wealth with the only currency you can never replenish. The slow lane also assumes stability that rarely exists in the real world. It assumes your health will hold for 40 years. It assumes your job will remain secure. It assumes the markets will cooperate. It assumes inflation will stay manageable. One of these variables failing can derail the entire plan. And the cruel irony is that even when the slow lane works perfectly, the reward arrives when you have the least physical capacity to enjoy it. Chapter 11. The criminal trade of time for money. Building directly on Chapter 10, this chapter isolates the most destructive transaction most people make every day without even thinking about it. Trading time for money. Whether you earn a modest hourly wage or a spectacular annual salary, if your income stops the moment you stop working, you are in a time trap. DeMarco draws a powerful distinction between income that is tied to your presence and income that is not. A doctor who sees 50 patients a day earns well, but the moment the doctor stops seeing patients, the income stops. A plumber who fixes 50 pipes a day earns fairly, but if the plumber gets injured, the income disappears. These are intelligent, skilled, hard-working people who have fallen into the time for money trap. Contrast this with the person who has built a business that serves customers while they sleep. A software application used by 10,000 people a month generates income whether the founder is working or on vacation or recovering from illness. An online course created once and sold 10,000 times pays for itself long after the initial work is done. This is what DeMarco calls divorcing wealth from time, and it is the fundamental mechanism of the fast lane. The question. Chapter 11 plants in your mind is this: is your income proportional to your time or proportional to the value you create? That distinction determines everything about your financial future. Chapter 12. The slow lane's penal mathematics. DeMarco takes the mathematics of the slow lane and exposes them with unflinching honesty. He walks through the actual numbers behind the get-rich-slow strategy, showing what decades of savings and modest market returns actually produce relative to the time and sacrifice invested. The numbers are, at best, underwhelming and, at worst, devastating when compared to what the fast lane can generate. Saving 10% of a modest income over 40 years, even with reasonable market returns, produces a retirement nest egg that sounds large in isolation but quickly diminishes when accounting for inflation, healthcare costs, market volatility, and the simple reality of living expenses. More importantly, the mathematics of the slow lane are based entirely on things you cannot control. You cannot control how much your employer decides to pay you beyond your negotiated rate. You cannot control what the stock market does. You cannot control whether your industry downsizes or your company restructures. You are a passive passenger in a vehicle where someone else holds the steering wheel. And the destination of that vehicle is a retirement party you may or may not be healthy enough to enjoy. DeMarco does not tell you to stop saving. He tells you to stop believing that saving alone is a wealth strategy. Saving is a habit. Frugality is a tool, but neither is a vehicle powerful enough to produce extraordinary financial freedom in a reasonable time frame. Chapter 13. The Futile Fight: Save Your Way to Wealth. This chapter takes aim specifically at the cultural obsession with frugality as a path to wealth. Skip the daily coffee. Cancel streaming subscriptions. Pack your own lunch. Clip coupons. The financial media is full of advice like this, presented as the foundation of a solid financial future. DeMarco is not against frugality as a principle. He is against the illusion that radical frugality can substitute for a fundamentally broken income model. You cannot save your way to wealth if the income you are saving is inherently limited. Cutting spending has a mathematical flaw. You cannot spend less than zero. But creating value through business has no ceiling. The difference between the two approaches is not effort, it is leverage. He introduces a concept that resonates deeply here. The idea that obsessing over tiny expenses while ignoring the income side of the equation is like mopping the floor while the ceiling leaks. You can mop as fast as you like. The ceiling will still leak. The real solution is to fix the ceiling, meaning to build income that grows independently of your personal time and effort. Chapter 14. The Hypocrisy of the Gurus. This chapter is bold, direct, and necessary. DeMarco examines the financial advice industry itself and asks a pointed question. If the advisors telling you to get rich slowly are so wise about wealth, why do they primarily make their money by selling advice rather than by building businesses or creating extraordinary value? Many popular financial figures preach frugality and patience while living on speaking fees, book royalties, and media appearances. There is nothing wrong with making money from advice, but there is something worth noticing when the advice being sold is built on a wealth model that the advisor themselves is not actually using. The successful advisor is not following the slow lane. They are following something much closer to the fast lane, building a scalable platform that generates income from millions of people simultaneously. DeMarco is not suggesting all financial advice is worthless. He is urging you to examine the source of the advice you follow. Does the person giving you advice about wealth actually have the kind of wealth they are describing? Did they build it the way they are telling you to build it? Are they walking the walk, or are they profiting from teaching the walk to others? Chapter 15. Slow Lane Victory, a Gamble of Hope. The closing chapter of Part 4 is perhaps the most honest. DeMarco acknowledges that the slow lane occasionally works. Some people do faithfully follow the path, save diligently, invest consistently, live below their means for 4 decades, and arrive at 65 with meaningful financial security. He does not deny this. What he challenges is the odds and the cost. The slow lane is a gamble, a long, slow, expensive gamble where the stakes are your most valuable years. And like any gamble, it requires everything to go right. Every variable has to cooperate: health, employment, inflation, market performance, political stability, and more. When one variable fails, the plan unravels. And unlike the fast lane, where a failed business can be rebuilt and a lost year can be recovered through momentum, the slow lane has very little tolerance for deviation. A decade lost in the slow lane may simply be gone. DeMarco closes this section by inviting the reader forward. You have seen the sidewalk. You have examined the slow lane. Now it is time to explore the road that DeMarco himself traveled. The road where wealth is not an event waiting 40 years away, but a process you can engineer beginning right now. Part 5. Wealth, the Fast Lane Roadmap. Chapter 16. Wealth's Shortcut, the Fast Lane. This is the chapter where the book shifts into a higher gear. After spending 4 parts dismantling the myths of the sidewalk and the slow lane, DeMarco now introduces the fast lane in full detail and makes clear what it actually is and is not. The fast lane is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is not a secret investment tip or a multi-level marketing opportunity or a digital product promising passive income by next weekend. The fast lane is a business and lifestyle strategy characterized by what DeMarco calls controllable unlimited leverage. This phrase deserves careful attention. Controllable means you are in charge, you own the system. No employer can fire you from your own business. No market crash can automatically eliminate your income if you have built it on diversified systems. Control is the antidote to the helplessness that defines both the sidewalk and the slow lane. Unlimited refers to the ceiling, or rather the lack of one. A job has a salary cap. The fast lane does not. If you build something that creates value for 10 people, you earn a little. If you build something that creates value for 10 million people, you earn an extraordinary amount. The ceiling is determined only by the scale of the need you serve and the quality of the solution you provide. Leverage means your effort multiplies. A book written once can be sold 1 million times. Software built once can be used by millions of people simultaneously. A system created once can run without your constant supervision. Leverage is what separates a fast laner from a slow laner doing the exact same amount of work. The fast lane wealth equation is this. Wealth comes from net profit combined with asset value. Net profit is what your system generates in excess of what it costs to run. Asset value is what your business or system is worth as a sellable entity. Both of these can grow exponentially in a way that a salary never can. DeMarco is careful here to define what wealth actually means. True wealth is not a number in a bank account. True wealth is built on 3 pillars. Family, meaning healthy and loving relationships with the people you care about most. Fitness, meaning physical health, energy, and vitality. And freedom, meaning the ability to choose how you spend your time. The fast lane is engineered to produce all 3, not someday, but as early in life as possible. Chapter 17. Switch teams and playbooks. To enter the fast lane, you have to switch teams. DeMarco makes a distinction that is simple but profound. In the modern economy, there are producers and there are consumers. Consumers buy things, producers create things. The slow lane trains you to be an excellent consumer who occasionally invests. The fast lane requires you to become a committed producer who creates value at scale. Most people spend enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy as consumers. They research the best television to buy, the trendiest clothing to wear, the coolest app to download. But very few people spend that same energy asking, what problem can I solve? What need can I meet? What would people pay for that I could build or provide? The playbook also changes. In the slow lane, the playbook says, work hard, get promoted, save, invest, and wait. In the fast lane, the playbook says, identify a need, build a system to meet it, scale the system, and collect the rewards. The actions required are different. The skills required are different. The mindset required is fundamentally different. Switching teams is not a physical act. It is a mental one. It begins with how you see every interaction in the world around you. A fast laner walks through a shopping mall and sees not just stores, but business systems. A fast laner uses a frustrating app and thinks not just about the frustration, but about the solution. A fast laner hears a complaint and hears an opportunity. The world is full of problems. Every one of them is a potential fast lane on-ramp. Chapter 18. How the rich really get rich. This chapter shatters one of the most persistent myths about wealthy people. Society tells you the rich get rich through smart stock picking, real estate investment, compound interest, and financial discipline. And while wealthy people may use all of those tools to preserve and grow wealth once they have it, that is not how they originally created it. DeMarco studied hundreds of self-made wealthy people and identified a consistent pattern. They became wealthy not through investment, but through business. They built something, a product, a service, a platform, a system that created value for a large number of people. The initial wealth came from value creation at scale. Everything else, the real estate, the stocks, the diversified portfolio, came after. This distinction matters enormously because it changes where you focus your energy. If you believe the path to wealth is through smart investing, you will spend your life trying to pick the right stocks and hoping markets cooperate. If you understand that the path to wealth is through building systems that create value, you will spend your energy creating, innovating, and serving. One of these paths puts you in control. The other makes you a spectator. The wealthy people DeMarco examined also had something else in common. They solved problems for a large number of people, not for themselves, not for a small group, for many. Scale was the engine of their wealth, and scale is available to anyone who builds the right system. Chapter 19. Divorce. Wealth from time. This chapter is one of the most important in the entire book. DeMarco makes the case, with mathematical clarity, that the single most powerful thing you can do to accelerate your wealth is to separate your income from your personal time. In the slow lane, income is directly proportional to hours worked. Stop working and the income stops. This is true whether you earn little per hour or an enormous amount per hour. It is the fundamental constraint of time for money trading. There are only 24 hours in a day. Even the highest paid professional cannot overcome this limit. In the fast lane, income is proportional to the value your system creates, not the hours you personally invest. A piece of software you built works for you while you sleep. A book you wrote earns royalties years after it was finished. A website you built continues generating leads long after you stopped actively building it. This is what it means to divorce wealth from time. DeMarco identifies 5 types of systems that can produce time-independent income. The first is rental systems, where real estate or other assets generate recurring payments. The second is computer and software systems, where technology works at scale on your behalf. The third is content systems, where books, courses, videos, and other information products generate ongoing revenue. The fourth is distribution systems, where you move products to customers through a scalable infrastructure. The fifth is human resource systems, where a team operates a business that does not require your constant personal involvement. Any of these systems, when built correctly and at sufficient scale, can produce wealth that grows independent of your time. And the key word is built. These systems require significant upfront work, creativity, persistence, and resilience. The fast lane is not easy in the beginning, but the payoff on the other side is a life where your money works harder than your body ever could. Chapter 20. Recruit your army of freedom fighters. DeMarco introduces a powerful concept here. Money as soldiers. Every unit of currency you retain and deploy intelligently becomes a soldier fighting for your financial freedom. The more soldiers you recruit, the larger your army. And an army of money soldiers works around the clock, without rest, without complaint, without demanding a raise. This reframes how you think about saving and investing. You are not just setting aside money for later. You are recruiting agents of financial liberation. Each one you deploy into a system that generates more money is a soldier that multiplies your capacity to create freedom. This also reframes how you think about spending. Every unnecessary purchase is not just a subtraction from your balance. It is the discharge of a potential soldier. Every frivolous expense is a freedom fighter sent away before they could serve you. This mindset does not mean living in deprivation. It means being intentional about where your resources go and understanding the long-term cost of each decision. The chapter also introduces the concept of the money army having 2 functions. First, it generates passive income through systems and investments. Second, it funds the creation of more systems. The army grows itself when deployed correctly. This is the fast lane compounding effect, not the slow compounding of a retirement account, but the explosive compounding of a well-built business system reinvested into further growth. Chapter 21. The Real Law of Wealth. DeMarco closes Part 5 with a law he calls the Law of Affection. This is the most important principle in the entire fast lane philosophy, and understanding it will reshape how you think about opportunity, income, and impact. The Law of Affection states this: the more people you affect in either scale or magnitude, the wealthier you become. Scale means reaching a large number of people. Magnitude means solving a very serious problem for even a relatively small number of people. Both paths lead to wealth. Both require you to create genuine value. Scale is the doctor who helps one patient at a time, compared to the pharmaceutical company that develops a medicine used by 50 million patients. Magnitude is the attorney who handles standard cases compared to the specialist who handles cases worth hundreds of millions. Scale and magnitude are the 2 levers of extraordinary income, and both require you to move beyond trading your personal time for money. This law also explains why simply working harder rarely produces wealth. Working harder within a system that reaches few people and solves minor problems produces modest income at best. Working smarter within a system that reaches millions and solves significant problems produces extraordinary income. The fast lane is not about effort, it is about leverage. Affect more people, solve bigger problems, create more value. Wealth follows. Part 6. Your vehicle to wealth, you. Chapter 22. Own yourself first. Before you can build any external system, you have to build yourself. Chapter 22 opens Part 6 with this fundamental truth. You are the vehicle for everything the Fastlane requires, and like any vehicle, you are only as capable as your engineering allows. DeMarco introduces the concept of taking complete ownership of your identity, your choices, and your direction. Most people live in a state of borrowed identity. They adopt the goals, beliefs, and definitions of success handed to them by parents, culture, peer groups, and media. They spent their lives climbing ladders someone else built toward destinations someone else chose. Owning yourself first means answering questions like, what do I actually value? What kind of life do I genuinely want to live? What am I truly capable of creating? What beliefs am I holding that belong to someone else rather than me? These questions are uncomfortable. They require honest self-examination. But they are the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without this foundation, even the best Fastlane strategy will be built on someone else's idea of what success should look like. Chapter 23. Life's Steering Wheel. Your choices are the steering wheel of your life. This is the core insight of Chapter 23. And DeMarco argues that most people have essentially handed their steering wheel to someone or something else. Their employer drives, their debt drives, their past drives, their fear drives, and they wonder why they keep ending up somewhere they did not want to go. Taking back the steering wheel means making choices deliberately. It means evaluating decisions based on where they actually lead rather than how they feel in the moment. It means asking, before every major financial decision, whether this takes me closer to the fast lane or further from it. Whether this serves my freedom or my immediate comfort. Whether this builds something or merely consumes something. DeMarco emphasizes that every choice has a trajectory. Small choices made consistently lead to large outcomes. The person who chooses to learn a new skill every month for 3 years accumulates a capability portfolio that composes into opportunity. The person who chooses to spend every spare hour on entertainment for 3 years accumulates nothing but the memory of shows watched. Both were making choices. Only one was steering. Chapter 24. Wipe your windshield clean. You cannot navigate toward a new destination if your view is obscured by old patterns, old beliefs, and old assumptions. Chapter 24 uses the windshield metaphor to describe the mental clarity required to pursue the fast lane successfully. Most people are driving through life with a windshield covered in the fingerprints of other people's opinions, the mud of past failures, and the frost of self-doubt. They cannot see clearly where they are going because they cannot see clearly at all. Wiping the windshield clean means doing the honest, often difficult work of examining your mental landscape and removing the obstructions. This includes releasing beliefs like, only lucky people get rich. Business is too risky. I am not smart enough to build something. It requires identifying the specific fears that prevent action and examining whether those fears are based on evidence or simply on the anxiety of the unknown. Often, the fears are far larger in the mind than in reality. And the cost of not acting, measured in years of freedom surrendered, is almost always greater than the risk of trying and failing. Chapter 25. Deodorize flatulent headwinds. DeMarco gets colorfully direct in this chapter. Flatulent headwinds are the toxic influences in your life that blow against your progress. These are the people, environments, and media inputs that reinforce mediocrity, mock ambition, and make the slow lane seem like the only reasonable path. These headwinds come from people who love you and mean well. Friends who question why you are spending your weekends working on a business idea when you could relax. Family members who worry about why you are taking risks when a stable job is available. Colleagues who mock entrepreneurial ambitions as naive or delusional. These people are not evil, but their influence, unchecked, will anchor you to where you currently are. DeMarco recommends being deliberate about your inputs, the conversations you have, the media you consume, the people you spend time with. Each of these either builds your belief in what is possible or erodes it. The fast lane requires a level of vision and resilience that is difficult to maintain in an environment saturated with voices saying slow down, be careful, do not risk anything. Protecting your mental environment is not selfishness. It is a prerequisite for the kind of bold thinking the fast lane demands. Chapter 26. Your primordial fuel, time. Time is the most valuable resource you have. It is also the only one you can never earn back. Chapter 26 explores this reality with the kind of urgency it deserves. DeMarco argues that most people treat time as though they have an unlimited supply. They trade it casually for low wages, for entertainment, for comfort. They allow it to be consumed by obligations that do not serve their goals and by habits that do not build their future. And then, years later, they look back and wonder where it went. The fast learner treats time differently. Time is not just money. Time is life. Every hour matters because every hour is irreplaceable. This does not mean working every hour of every day with no rest or enjoyment. It means being deliberately intentional about how time is allocated. Every hour invested in building a system that generates future freedom is an hour that compounds. Every hour traded for immediate income that leaves no residual value is an hour that evaporates. DeMarco introduces a concept called the Law of Mechanical Turk, which describes the mistake of spending personal time on tasks that could and should be systematized or delegated. If you are spending your working hours on tasks a machine or a hired person could do, you are not building a fast lane. You have simply created a job for yourself with a different employer. Chapter 20. 7. Change that dirty, stale oil. Like an engine that seizes without fresh oil, a mind that is never updated with new knowledge eventually stops working effectively. Chapter 27 makes the case for continuous, aggressive, deliberate education as a cornerstone of fast lane success. But DeMarco draws a distinction between formal education and functional education. Formal education is what institutions provide: degrees, certifications, credentials. These have value in certain contexts, but functional education is what actually builds the skills and knowledge required to create a fast lane business. Reading voraciously. Learning by doing. Studying people who have built what you want to build. Acquiring skills that directly serve the systems you are trying to create. The fast laner is a learning machine. Not learning for the sake of credentials, but learning for the sake of capability. The person who spends 2 hours every day consuming content that builds their business knowledge is compounding their capability in a way that eventually produces exponential results. The person who spends those same 2 hours in entertainment is compounding nothing. DeMarco also addresses the paradox of knowing versus doing. Many people accumulate enormous amounts of knowledge about business, wealth, and entrepreneurship and never act on any of it. Knowledge without execution is entertainment. The oil only works when it is applied to the moving parts. Chapter 28. Hit the red line. The red line is the zone of maximum effort. It is the place on the engine tachometer where things are moving faster than they comfortably should, where the system is under maximum load, where most people back off because it feels dangerous or unsustainable. DeMarco argues that building a fast lane business requires extended periods of operating at or near the red line. This is not a permanent state. The reward for operating at the red line during the building phase is the freedom to eventually operate well below it for the rest of your life. But during the critical early stages, when a business is being built, systems are being tested, and markets are being captured, there is no substitute for extraordinary commitment. This chapter is also a call to action for people who have been perpetually preparing. The people who are always about to start, always getting ready, always almost ready to launch. The red line does not exist in the planning phase. It exists in the execution phase. And until you start executing, all your preparation is just an elaborate form of delay. Part 7. The Roads to Wealth. Chapter 29. The Right Road Routes to Wealth. Not all business ideas are fast lane roads. Some business ideas are disguised slow lanes, requiring your constant personal presence and generating income directly proportional to your time. Chapter 29 introduces the framework DeMarco uses to evaluate whether a business road is a genuine fast lane. The framework is called CENTS, standing for Control, Entry, Need, Time, and Scale. These 5 commandments, which are explored in detail in the chapters that follow, form the filter through which every business opportunity should be evaluated. A genuine fast lane business must satisfy all 5. Failing any single commandment is a warning sign that the road leads somewhere other than the extraordinary wealth and freedom you are seeking. DeMarco emphasizes that the road matters more than the vehicle. You can be the most talented, hardworking, passionate entrepreneur in the world, and if you are traveling a road that violates the CENTS commandments, you will never reach the fast lane destination. Chapter 30. The Commandment of Need. The first commandment of the fast lane is the most important one. Your business must solve a genuine need that people are willing to pay for. This seems obvious, and yet an enormous number of business ideas fail precisely because they solve a problem that does not actually exist in the real world, or that exists only in the mind of the person who had the idea. DeMarco is unambiguous. The market does not care about your passion. The market does not care about how hard you worked on something. The market only cares whether what you offer solves a problem that enough people have, and whether it solves it well enough that they will exchange money for it. Passion is a great motivator for the long hours of building. But passion alone is not a business model. The commandment of need forces you to ask uncomfortable questions. Does a real problem exist? Is it widespread enough to produce significant revenue? Are people already spending money to solve this problem in inferior ways? If the answer to these questions is yes, you have identified a genuine need. If the answer is unclear or negative, the business idea needs to be refined before it becomes a road worth traveling. Chapter 31. The Commandment of Entry. Easy to enter. Markets are difficult to profit from. This is the counterintuitive lesson of Chapter 31. If anyone can start your type of business with minimal time, money, or skill, competition will quickly erode any advantage you gain. Low barriers to entry mean low profit margins, relentless competition, and a race to the bottom on price. DeMarco argues that genuine fast lane roads have meaningful barriers to entry. Not barriers so high that they are impossible to overcome, but barriers that require genuine skill, creativity, persistence, or capital to clear. These barriers protect your position once you have established it. They create a moat around your business that competitors cannot easily cross. This does not mean you should only pursue businesses that require massive investment or rare expertise. It means that the more effort, creativity, and knowledge required to build what you are building, the more defensible and valuable it becomes. The barrier to entry is not just a protective wall. It is a measure of the value you have created. Chapter 30. 2. The Commandment of Control. Control is what separates a fast lane business from a fast lane illusion. If someone else can shut down your income stream with a single decision, you do not have a fast lane. You have a dependency dressed up to look like freedom. DeMarco illustrates this with the example of businesses built entirely on platforms owned by others. If your entire business depends on a single social media platform, a single marketplace, or a single distributor, you are exposed to a risk that is entirely outside your control. Any change in that platform's rules, algorithms, or policies can eliminate your revenue overnight. This is not the fast lane. This is the slow lane in disguise. True fast lane control means owning the system that generates your income, your own platform, your own customer relationships, your own product, your own distribution. When you control these elements, you control your financial destiny. When you surrender control to a third party, you become as vulnerable as any employee who could be let go on a Monday morning with no warning. Chapter 33. The Commandment of Scale. Small is safe, but small is also slow. Chapter 33 explains why scale is not optional in the fast lane. It is the mechanism through which your effort transforms into extraordinary wealth. Scale means the potential to serve not dozens but thousands, not thousands but millions. A business that serves your neighborhood is a business. A business that serves the world is a fast lane. The internet has democratized scale in a way that was previously impossible. A teenager in a small city can now build a software product used by millions of people globally. A creator in a modest apartment can produce content consumed by audiences of extraordinary size. Scale that once required massive corporate infrastructure is now accessible to anyone with a laptop and a good idea. DeMarco argues that when evaluating a business idea, you must ask, if this works, how big can it get? If the honest answer is limited, the idea may be worth pursuing for income, but it is not a fast lane. A business constrained by geography, by your personal time, or by a limited available market is a business with a ceiling. And ceilings produce slow lane outcomes. Chapter 34. The Commandment of Time. Can your business make money while you sleep? This is the ultimate test of Chapter 34. The commandment of time demands that your business operate independently of your continuous personal involvement. A restaurant requires your presence to function. A consulting practice requires your mind to be engaged in every engagement. These are not fast lane businesses unless systems are built to decentralize the operation away from personal dependency. The fast lane business must be engineerable into a system that runs without you as the single point of failure. This does not mean you will never work on your business. It means you are building the business, not just working in it. The distinction is critical. Working in a business means performing the tasks the business requires. Building a business means creating systems, processes, and teams that perform those tasks so you do not have to. One produces income, the other produces freedom. Chapter 35. Rapid Wealth, the Interstates. Some roads within the fast lane move faster than others. DeMarco calls the fastest possible routes the interstates. These are the business models and industries that historically produce extraordinary wealth in the shortest timeframes. They are not easier, but they are structurally superior in their wealth-generating potential. The interstates include innovation, where you create something entirely new that the market has never had access to before. They include internet businesses, where software, content, and platforms can scale globally with marginal cost. They include purposeful persuasion, where the ability to communicate compellingly at scale through content, marketing, or media creates enormous value. And they include wholesaling and distribution, where moving products efficiently between producers and consumers generates wealth through volume. These interstates do not require a revolutionary idea or a unique genius. They require the right structure, the right scale, and the right commitment to building a system that serves genuine needs at meaningful volume. Chapter 36. Find your open road. Not every road is for every traveler. Chapter 36 is DeMarco's invitation to do the personal work of identifying which fast lane road aligns with your specific skills, interests, and resources. The fast lane is not one road. It is a category of roads, each with different terrain and different requirements. The open road for you is the one where your existing capabilities combine with a genuine market need in a format that can scale, that you can control, and that can eventually operate without your constant involvement. Finding it requires honest self-inventory. What do you know? What can you build? What problems have you personally experienced that others are also experiencing? What frustrates you about existing products or services in ways that point to an opportunity? DeMarco encourages readers to look at their own life experiences not as a biography, but as a map of potential opportunity. Every industry you have worked in, every frustration you have had as a customer, every gap you have noticed in the market is a potential on-ramp to a fast lane road. Chapter 37. Give your road a destination. The final chapter of Part 7 insists on the importance of a clearly defined destination. Vague goals produce vague results. The person who says they want to be rich someday is not really aiming at anything. The person who says they want to generate a specific monthly income from a business they own by a specific date has a target, and targets can be hit. DeMarco introduces the concept of a wealth target, a specific number that defines financial freedom for you personally. Not the largest number you can imagine, but the specific number that, when reached, would give you the freedom to choose how you live every day. This number is different for everyone, but having it defined transforms wealth from a vague aspiration into an engineering challenge, and engineering challenges can be solved. Part 8. Your speed. Accelerate wealth. Chapter 30. 8. The speed of success. Ideas without execution are worthless, and execution without speed is just slow failure. Chapter 30. 8 opens the final part of the book by addressing the relationship between action and outcome. DeMarco argues that in the modern economy, speed is a competitive advantage. The person who builds a solution quickly, tests it against real market feedback, and iterates rapidly will consistently outperform the person who plans exhaustively before ever building anything. Perfect is the enemy of done. And done, even imperfectly, is infinitely more valuable than perfect that never ships. He introduces the concept of event and process again here, reminding the reader that success is not a single moment of breakthrough. It is a series of small actions compounded over time. Speed does not mean recklessness. It means efficient, focused, decisive movement from one action to the next, learning from each step and adjusting course based on real evidence rather than theoretical planning. Chapter 39. Burn the business plan, ignite execution. Business plans are overrated. DeMarco makes this argument firmly in Chapter 39. Most business plans are elaborate documents created to impress investors or satisfy a business class requirement, not tools that actually guide the building of a real business. Real businesses are built through action, through trying things, learning what works, fixing what does not, and relentlessly moving forward. The business plan fantasy is that if you can plan well enough, you can eliminate uncertainty and guarantee success. But uncertainty cannot be planned away. Markets are dynamic, customers are unpredictable, and the real conditions of building a business can only be fully understood once you are actually building it. The most valuable business education is the experience of running one, not the theory of what one should look like on paper. Ignite execution means starting with what you have, learning with every step, and letting reality teach you things no plan could anticipate. The successful fastlaner is not someone who planned perfectly. It is someone who executed relentlessly and adapted intelligently. Chapter 40. Pedestrians will make you rich. This is one of the most energizing insights in the book. Pedestrians are the complainers, the frustrated customers, the people posting negative reviews, The people venting in public forums about how some product or service failed them. DeMarco says these people are not problems. They are opportunities. Every complaint is a market signal. Every frustration is a gap in the market waiting to be filled. The person who reads a flood of complaints about a product and builds something better is listening to the market tell them exactly what it needs. The fastlaner who pays close attention to pedestrian frustration is gathering the best possible market research at zero cost. This chapter reframes the way you listen to the world around you. Instead of hearing complaints and moving on, you begin to hear business opportunities. Instead of experiencing frustration as a consumer and accepting it, you begin to ask, could I solve this? And if the answer is yes, and the frustration is shared by enough people, you have just found your fast lane. Chapter 41. Throw hijackers to the curb. Hijackers are the people, habits, and thought patterns that take control of your direction without your conscious permission. Chapter 41 is a call to vigilance about who and what you allow to influence your path. Some hijackers are obvious: toxic relationships, destructive habits, environments that drain motivation and reinforce mediocrity. These are worth removing with clear eyes and no apology. Other hijackers are subtler: the habit of checking social media before doing meaningful work, the tendency to help everyone else with their goals before investing time in your own, the pattern of starting things enthusiastically and abandoning them when difficulty arrives. DeMarco draws particular attention to the hijacking power of a mediocre environment. Spend enough time surrounded by people who accept financial mediocrity as inevitable, and mediocrity begins to feel normal to you too. The cure is both internal, developing the self-awareness to notice when you are being redirected, and external, deliberately building an environment that supports fast-lane thinking and fast-lane action. Chapter 42. Be someone's savior. One of the most powerful positioning strategies available to any business is to be a genuine savior to a specific group of people with a specific problem. Chapter 42 explores this concept with depth and clarity. Being someone's savior means identifying a pain point so acute, a frustration so persistent, or a need so urgent that when you solve it, people feel rescued. The relief of having a genuine solution to a real problem creates the kind of loyalty, word of mouth, and enthusiastic purchasing that no marketing campaign can manufacture. DeMarco revisits the law of affection here. The savior who rescues many people builds enormous wealth. The savior who rescues people from especially devastating problems builds enormous magnitude. Both paths work. Both require the same thing: an honest, humble focus on the needs of others rather than the desires of yourself. Chapter 43. Build brands, not businesses. Businesses are fragile. Brands are durable. This is the distinction DeMarco draws in Chapter 43, and it has enormous implications for how you think about what you are actually building. A business is a set of operations, products, and revenue streams. A brand is a promise, a feeling, a relationship between a company and its customers. Businesses can be copied. Brands, when built authentically and consistently, are much harder to replicate. Apple is not just a phone company. It is a brand that means something specific to the people who buy its products. That meaning is not easily stolen by a competitor who makes an objectively similar phone. Building a brand requires consistency, authenticity, and a clear point of view about what you stand for and why. It requires treating customers not as transactions, but as relationships. It requires delivering on your promise repeatedly and reliably until your reputation does more selling than your marketing budget ever could. Chapter 44. Choose monogamy over polygamy. In the context of business building, monogamy means focusing relentlessly on one thing until it succeeds. Polygamy means spreading your attention across multiple ventures simultaneously and giving none of them the focused energy required to produce breakthrough results. DeMarco is direct. The entrepreneurial instinct is often to pursue every shiny idea, to start multiple businesses simultaneously, to hedge against failure by spreading bets. But this instinct, while understandable, is usually fatal to success. Building a fast-lane business requires a depth of focus and commitment that cannot be split across 10 projects. Each project gets a fraction of your attention, and a fraction of focused energy rarely produces the velocity required to break through. He recommends staying committed to a single business until it either succeeds or proves definitively that it cannot. Learn everything it teaches you. Fix every problem it presents. Give it the full intensity it requires. Only once it is running without your constant involvement, or once it is clearly unworkable, should you redirect your focus elsewhere. Chapter 45. Put it together. Supercharge your wealth plan. The final chapter of the Millionaire Fastlane is both a summary and a call to action. DeMarco weaves together all 44 chapters that came before into a unified framework and challenges the reader to do the one thing that separates the people who change their financial lives from the people who simply learn about changing them. Start. Not plan more. Not research more. Not read another book before beginning. Start. With what you have, where you are, using what you know today. The fast lane will teach you the rest through the process of doing. DeMarco closes with a reminder that the journey is the wealth, not the destination, not the number in the bank account at the end. The person you become through the process of building something real, solving a real problem, serving real people, overcoming real obstacles, that transformation is the true product of the fast lane. You started this book as someone who was told the road to wealth takes 40 years. You finish it knowing that is a choice, not a requirement. The fast lane exists. It always existed. The only question is whether you will choose to get on it. The millionaire is not born. The millionaire is built, and the building begins now.